Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert Weichelt with the More Listings Mastermind. I'm your host, Robert Weichelt, Certified Success Coach. We meet every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. You can reach us right here every Wednesday at morenowlistings.com. Super excited to we've got a great show today. So if you're looking to increase your listing inventory, this is the right place for you to be. Super excited. I always like to start off with this one quote. I'm a football guy, always have been. I'm a successories guy. If you come into my office, you'll see Ben Franklin. Chris, you and I both back in the day, we had all those accessories. We were there probably every single
Not
day.
back, but not back in the day, Robert. My office in Encinitas still has those
Yeah,
posters up.
I still do as well. Yeah. So, but I'll tell you what, this is fantastic. My favorite quote, Vince Lombardi: "The only place success comes before work is in the dictionary." We're going to talk about rolling up our sleeves and getting to work today. I tell you what, who am I? I'm Robert Weichelt. I've been in the real estate industry since 1986. I've had the privilege of helping thousands of sellers and countless agents achieve their success in every type of market. As a broker, trainer, mentor, my mission is simple. I want to empower others to grow, win, and lead with purpose, hence this weekly mastermind. So if you want to reach out to me, you can certainly drop your information in the chat box, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I always like to start with 5 habits that'll help you grow your business in real estate starting today. Number 1, lead generation. We're going to touch on that today. That lead generation needs to be on your calendar for a minimum of 90 minutes per day, in my personal opinion. For focused prospecting, number 2, you need to track and measure your numbers. You really need to understand what your numbers are. Number 3, speaking of numbers, you need to set an appointment every day with a buyer or seller. If not, that's a red flag, in my opinion. Number 4, you got to follow up like a pro. You've heard the fortune is in the follow-up, and that is a true statement. And number 5, role play, study scripts, and handle objections. Our guest today is no one's better than handling objections than our guest today. So I'm super excited to jump into that. But before we do, I want to jump in and talk to Tim Yates real quick. Tim Yates is our estate planning guru. I am blown away by the amount of my database, and I'm sure your database is pretty close to the same, do not have a living trust. Tim, give us the 1 minute, 30,000 foot view explanation of what you got going on with the estate planning.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, my friend. My name is Tim Yates. I founded an estate planning firm almost a decade ago. Actually, we're more of a technology firm now. We've really come a long way with my wife, Carrie, who's our firm's lead attorney. And we've kind of been quietly disrupting the estate planning industry by really focusing our relationships on partnering with real estate professionals, helping real estate professionals get more listings, which in turn helps us get more trusts. So it's kind of a perfect relationship. You know, numbers, what you mentioned, Robert, here's the thing that a lot of people are shocked about. Here in California, it's about 87.3% of all homeowners do not have a living trust. So think about that. That's nearly 9 out of 10 people in your database that does not have their home in a trust. And one of the reasons behind that, though, it traditionally has just been the cost. You know, a revocable living trust package by most professional firms is going to run you $2,500 and up. And that, believe it or not, even if people are protecting millions of dollars in assets, it still causes people to pump the brakes and wait for it, thinking I'm young, I'm healthy, I'll eventually get to it, and they just never do. One of the things that I just wanted to announce here, though, when we talk about price points, Robert, this is the big news. I haven't even told you about this yet. So starting at November the 1st, we're launching a brand new campaign to help 100 California families during the holiday season. We're going to make our revocable estate plan packages available not for $2,500, but for $399. Believe it or not, we're going to do it for $399 to help as many people as we can. We want to take cost out of the equation. We want to show people that it's more important to protect their home, their assets, and their family, and be able to say, this is a no-brainer, I'm going to do it. We're actually launching a new website on the 1st called mylegacylink.net. I'll put it in the chat thing. It's not live yet, but we're going to go live on the 1st. We're going to make this opportunity available. Last year, we beta tested this system, Robert, and we actually had, with a handful of agents that were up in NorCal, We had some agents that were actually purchasing more than five of these packages because they wanted to use them as closing gifts. They wanted to give them for themselves, their own family and friends. I know a lot of agents who don't have a trust. So it's a tremendous opportunity. We're excited. It's really about giving back. And it's going to help us build more relationships and help more people. And that's what it's all about.
Amen, brother. I think the biggest thing I took away from there is 9 out of 10. That's a pretty big number. And that tells me as an agent, what a great time and a great thing to follow up with my database. Instead of just saying, hey, do you want to buy, sell, or invest now or in the near future continually? Come in with some contribution, talk to them about the living trust. It's a great tool and at a great price, it sounds like too. So thank you, Tim, for sharing. As always, you're phenomenal. I appreciate you. I want to jump into the mortgage minute. We've got a lot of stuff going on with the shutdown. A lot of agents are not quite sure how that affects their business, what's going on with their buyers, their sellers. Richie, welcome to More Listings Mastermind. Give us a quick update. What's happening in the space of mortgage, my friend?
It's never boring, especially in these times. So we did get an announcement today that the Fed did cut their rate by another 0.25%. So this is just another sign that inflation somewhat is under control, and we're entering into a more favorable rate environment for buyers. It's worth noting, because we get these questions all the time, that mortgage rates don't move in lockstep with the Fed rate. The Fed rate's more between the rate that banks use to lend to one another. The mortgage rates move a little more differently and more heavily impacted by current market data. But we've seen the 30-year fix now drop into the low sixes. So that's the lowest levels in over a year. So now we're seeing affordability bring people to the market, people on the fence coming to market. So that's the news today as far as the rate cut. Now with the government shutdown, the biggest hurdle we're seeing is for USDA loans. So they're not a huge chunk of loans out there on the market, but they're out there. And the USDA won't guarantee a loan if they're closed. So that's a little bit of a hurdle lenders aren't getting through, and something to take notice of. We're seeing program change where people are using the USDA loan. They're having to go FHA or use down payment assistance because we don't have the 100% financing. The last time we saw a government shutdown this long was in 2013. And thereafter that, we saw negative GDP growth of 0.6%. So again, it's just another indicator of more favorable rates going into the future. That's your update.
I dig it. You know what? It's always important because a lot of times our clients will ask us, "Hey, Robert, what's going on what's this government shutdown going to do?" It's always good to have a little bit of information to be able to provide them. So, Richie, as always, thank you, sir.
Of course, yeah, no, you got it.
And the cool thing about Richie, I want to give Richie a huge plug real quick. Not only is Richie my favorite lender, but he helped my two favorite borrowers, my daughter and my son, purchase their first home. So thank you, brother. And our son is already wanting to refinance because you got an FHA loan. So you guys will be talking, I'm sure, this week about that. So thank you, Richie, so much. I appreciate you. Let's get on with the show. And Richie and Tim, can you go ahead and put your information in the chat box so people can get a hold of you? But I want to get started with our program today. And somebody I've known for a very, very, very long time. Somebody I look up to as a listing agent myself. I look up to this person. Chris Heller is our guest today. Heller, the home seller, a trusted name in real estate, built the industry leader. Chris Heller is the former CEO of Keller Williams Realty International. And Chris, when you first took that job, that was what a great compliment for you. Not only are you a top producer in your own right, but you've built teams where when you left San Diego, and I'll let you dive into that more, but when you left, your team was still running very, very efficiently, which I was very impressed considering my wife and I just finished a 2-year RV trip across the country. And I was still prospecting on the road. I was still taking listings, still holding open houses, all virtually, of course. And I had my team set up, and I thought about you just about every single time I took a new listing. So with that said, I appreciate you so much. So welcome to the show, Chris. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I just got home a couple hours ago. I was just thinking that the last 5 days I've been in all four time zones. Eastern, Central, West, Pacific, and now Mountain. Um, So, but all good, all good.
It's certainly good to see you. So let's just dive right into it. Let's tell the audience, for those on the call today, these are some VIPs that are on the call, and we've got some folks that'll listen to this after, whether it be our YouTube channel or Spotify podcast. Who's Chris Heller?
Yeah, look at the core and in my heart, I'm a real estate agent. Now I haven't listed or sold a home since 2010 when I stepped out of my real estate business, but I still own the team in San Diego. And so for the last 15 years, I've helped lead and grow some of the biggest companies in our industry and continue to do that. Um, and so, like I said, an agent at heart and an executive that loves to scale and grow businesses. Um, on in my day job.
No, I love it. I love it. So let's get into a couple of questions that were submitted by some folks and also my team. The question number one that I have for you, Chris, is from agent to industry icon. That's really, in my opinion, when I first met you, I remember you were in there. I was with Mark Prestera. You were brought us up there to watch you prospect, which you just don't see that. Agents don't usually do that. And you were so gracious to let us in and kind of see what was going on, behind the curtain. You've built one of the most successful real estate teams in the country, and then later on went to run Keller Williams as our CEO. What principles and habits helped you rise from the top agent to the top leader? How did that transition go for you?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. And then there's never just one thing. But I think you had an S on those principles and habits. So I'll give you some of them. Number one, I've always operated with the philosophy and the belief that results create opportunities. So, uh, and will be announcing in a couple of weeks a new a new thing I'm doing. That and every other thing I've done has been the result of has been caused by the results that I've gotten in whatever I was doing. So, when especially when young people come and say, "Hey, I want to be this or I want to be that," or I'm trying, I want to get promoted this, or my own kids, it's like, "Hey, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you get extraordinary results, you don't have to worry about trying to find the next thing because the opportunities will come to you. There's more opportunities than you can even consider if you're getting, phenomenal results. So focused on results. Now, that sounds great. But if it was easy, everyone everyone would be doing it, right? So the other habits and principles were being as efficient and as effective as I could every day. I used to call them my two E's, my efficiency and my effectiveness. Effectiveness is things like skills, right? So if I'm making calls for 3 hours and someone else is making calls for 3 hours, if I'm more effective, I will get more results from those calls, right? So the more effective I am. And the reason I started to focus on those two things was the realization that we all have the same constraint, and that's time, right? Like it's times is the ultimate equalizer. We all have the exact same amount of time. So if I have the same amount of time as everyone else, how am I going to get substantially better results? Well, I have to be more effective in what I'm doing, and I have to be more efficient in how I'm doing it. So effectiveness, skills, and where do skills come from? It's from practice. It's practice. I practiced every day that I was an active agent. I never skipped a day of role playing and practicing. Uh, and people go like, really? Yeah, really. I was at the World Series game last night. We have the two best teams in baseball in the World Series. The players on those teams are at the pinnacle of their profession. Do you think once they became professionals, they stopped taking batting practice? Right? Like, no, they take more and they do it every day. They don't say, hey, I got a game tonight. I'm going to get 3 or 4 at bats. So I'll just, I'll get my cuts in then. No, they take batting practice every day. Yet agents won't do it and don't do it. So I worked on my skills to be as effective as possible. And wasn't just the skills. I recorded thousands literally thousands. And I know this because in 2000 and what year was it? 2006, I changed companies and I had to no, I'm sorry, it's 2004. And I had to move my office. And in the company I was with wanted me to move very quickly. So my team had to like move everything. They came to me with box after box, big boxes filled with cassette tapes, used cassette tapes, which were recordings of my prospecting, of my listing presentations, of buyer consultations. Like boxes and boxes of the cassette tapes. Who knows how many hundreds or thousands there were. And they said, "What do you want to do with these?" I'm like, throw them away. I've already listened to them. I'm not going to listen to them again. And now, in retrospect, I probably should have kept them and digitized them and done something. I probably could have become really popular on social media with those. But why did I do that? Why did I record those? Did I like listening to my voice? Are you kidding me? Who likes listening to their voice? It's horrifying. Did I like hearing the mistakes I'd make or the stupid things I'd say? No, but it was the most effective way to get better. I was like, I'm not going to do that again. Or I can't believe I said that. Or I forgot to do this. Or I forgot to do that. Right? So I worked on my skills every day. Efficiency, checklists, processes, systems, right? Systematize everything, process for everything. Um, I every I ended I started every day by ending my day the right way. So there's never a day I woke up where I didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing, when I was going to be doing it, what I was going to be eating, where I was going to be eating, when I was going to be eating, what I was going to be wearing, what I needed to do. Like that was all handled at the end of the previous day. And I just looked at how efficient could I be. I did things, Robert, you'll appreciate this. Look, I was like a lot of agents in my car a lot, right? Going to appointments and everything else. I would never stop to put gas in my car except on weekends and in the like early morning or late at night, right? I would never take the 15 minutes that it took to stop and get gas during the day because I didn't allow for that. I didn't allot for that, right? It wasn't in my schedule. So I would always have to do that super early in the morning or late at night or on the weekend. And I planned that. So I got down to that level of saying, how efficient can I be? Now, someone may be listening and go, oh, that sounds horrible. Like, that's like, no freedom, anything else. Here's the thing. The more discipline we can create around our time and our schedule, the more time we have. The more discipline we have with our money, the more money we have. The more discipline we are with our health, the better health we have, right? It's the exact opposite of what a lot of people intuitively think. And I know because I would work to whatever time I worked, and I would get done 5 times as much as I'd see all the other agents in the office get done. And they'd have to keep working because they didn't have a schedule. They didn't follow it. And it'd be 6 o'clock and they knew they didn't get a bunch of stuff done. And now they're working into the night and they're just, the businesses are controlling them instead of them controlling the business. So you asked me a simple question. I've given you a long answer.
Oh, that's
And there's
awesome.
other principles and other habits, but those are some of the ones that popped into my mind first.
You know what? It takes some clarity for sure. You need to know where you're going. You wake up. My biggest takeaway from there, and I'm a big time blocker. I mean, to the point where I have wake my first thing I do is I wake up, and that literally is on my calendar. And the last thing on my calendar for that day is go to bed. It literally is on my calendar because I get a 15-minute reminder. If I'm doing whatever I'm doing, 15 minutes, be in bed, best place home. So I'm a big time blocker. I got a lot out of that one. But knowing where you're going so many times, especially when we don't have somebody, you said in one of your recordings, we don't have somebody looking over our shoulder, our boss. If we had to go to a job and we were supposed to be there at 6 in the morning, I listened to it this morning. If we had to be there at 6 in the morning and we were supposed to prospect, that's your job. That's what you'll be doing. So it's a lot of us agents have this, I'm, independent. I'm my own boss, but they don't have the discipline it takes to stay focused and do the things they need to do. So I think time blocking is the big thing there.
It is. And I just want to add something to that. That's also one of the things that I did. I treated myself like an employee, not the boss.
Yeah.
And I treated what I did as a job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I, I didn't give myself permission not to be on time, to the office every day. I didn't give my permission to leave early. Like I treated it like a job. I remember early in my career, I had to go into one of the cities to get some information about property. And it was right before 5 o'clock. It was like quarter to five. And I was looking around, and everyone that worked there was waiting to leave, and you could see it. You could see it by their actions. By the they're like, yeah, they were all like waiting for the 5 o'clock so they could scurry out the door. And I thought, oh man, that's horrible. That's like a horrible. Like I don't ever want to be that way. But I treated it like a job, like I had a boss. And in my mind, the boss was my family, my clients, my team, because they all depended on me doing my job.
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge. I was just, and you've got some great stuff that you share on Instagram and social media, and it's just all your objection handling. And it's now a good time to list. I mean, I'd recommend you guys go get information, check out Chris on social, and you'll be blown away. I've a couple other questions that I really want to ask.
Sure.
Because I know a lot of agents, they always want to build their own brand. You've built a brand, Heller the Home Seller. It's a national recognized brand with a great reputation. What strategies and philosophies helped you stand out to build trust in such a competitive industry?
Yeah. Um, Again, another good question, thoughtful question. So I this goes back to like when I first started. This was probably like 2 months into the business, and I had this aha. And this aha was that if I did two things, I would be head and shoulders above most agents. Now, I was in your typical office. There's like 80 agents. Um, and the two things that I realized that I had to do different to stand out um, were were actually pretty simple. Um, but it was number one, do what I say I'm going to do, right? Because I saw agents and watched agents and listened to agents constantly not do that. They had no relationship to their word. And I'm not saying they were bad people or anything else. They're just normal humans. But if you look at the people that succeed at the highest level, they do what they say they're going to do. Period. Right? That's how they operate. And the second thing was that if I told the truth, if I always told the truth. Now, you say, all right, well, yeah, of course. I'm not, who wants to be a liar? I'm not a liar. You're not a liar. I don't mean lying. I mean, I would see agents on a consistent basis not tell the buyer or the seller the truth because they were afraid that they'd lose them as a client. They were afraid that they'd offend them. They're afraid that they'd piss them off or anything else, instead of just telling them the truth. And when you think about it, and doctors, I think, are a great example of this. You know, when you go to the doctor, if there's something wrong with you, you want the truth, right? Now, you may not like it, you may not be happy with it, but you want the truth. You don't want them, dancing around or hemming and hawing or saying, well, you want like, hey, doc, what's wrong? What do I got to do, right? Um, so those were the two things. Now, that was early in my career, and as an agent, that's what I did. More specific to your question, and someone said this about me, and I hadn't thought about this till I heard her say this to someone else. This was someone that was leading my team. And she said, I've never met someone with more integrity. No matter what the situation is, Chris will always do the right thing. No matter what the cost to him is, no matter what the potential loss is, no matter how difficult the conversation is, he'll do that. Now, I never thought about that because that's just like the the water I swam in or the air I breathed. But when you ask that question, that's what came to mind. I think if you're known as someone who people can trust because you're always going to do the right thing and always tell them the truth, then by default you start to build that trust and you start to build that reputation of that's who you are. And that's and there's been no job, no position, no amount of commission, no amount of compensation that's worth me jeopardizing that. And I tell the people on my team, and I have no tolerance for anyone else in my life being that way. So
Amen.
I think those are some of the things, Robert, that you know have probably led um, to where I'm at. I'll add one other thing too, though. It's just getting shit done. So like having the reputation of doing what it takes and doing what it need, whatever it takes to get what you need to get done. Whether it's for myself or for the company I'm representing or the company I'm trying to build is, being willing to do what it takes to get it done.
I love it. And you couldn't have said that better. I love it. I want to switch gears real quick. Because you've been in the business a long time. You've been in the real estate game, you've been in the technology game. What Here's the question. What changes do you see shaping the next, say, 3 to 5 years? And how should agents be prepared and stay relevant? For example, AI is really big. I know a lot of agents I talk to are stressing out over, I don't understand it. I'm not a young kid, or they whatever, they get that drunk monkey in their head. What do you see coming up in the real estate and technology space, and how can agents stay relevant in your opinion?
Yeah. So like in the next 3 to 5 years, there will be more changes than we've had in the past 35 years. The amount of changes um, will be so dramatic that most people won't know what hit them. And most agents are going to go, what happened? Why am I not in business anymore? Or why am I not getting in business anymore? Um, it is it is coming so fast and furious that it's almost hard to imagine. Now, you have two options. You can be excited about that, or you can be scared and frightened about it. Just like any change that happens. And what most people do is they default to fear, frustration, they don't like it, they resist it, everything else. And um, that's like resisting, getting older or resisting the weather or resisting, that you need oxygen to breathe. Like, how does that work for you? Um, so I always look at, all right, where's the opportunities? When there's change, when the NAR settlement came out, you know, I was watching everyone online freak out and get angry and rage and everything else. I'm like, this is interesting to watch. Um, all I was like, okay, where are the opportunities going to be? There's going to be changes. What are the opportunities? What do I need to do to take advantage of the opportunities? So, and by the way, when you're afraid, when you're stressed, when you're fearful, when you're angry, when you're resisting things, you cannot see opportunities. Those things are like filters that make it impossible to see opportunities. So, um, but with this change that's happening, to be relevant and stay relevant, um, there's something that has always been important that will actually become more important that people will start to crave at some point. Like we all are getting very excited about the things that AI can do, the time it can save. I mean, I was on the plane today, um, creating documents, and you know, I got I would have had to either pay someone a bunch of money that it would take me a long time to do it. I did, I had two-hour flights and I got a crap load done that I couldn't have gotten done on my own without AI. And the where was it going? I just lost the thought. Um, oh, to stay relevant. So what's going to be happening is we are going to be leveraging AI in our lives and in every part of our lives, right? I think I don't know if it's 3 to 5 years, but I will say with a high degree of confidence, within 10 years, no one will be driving a car. Right? It just won't be. No one will be driving a car unless you go someplace special to be, to see what it feels like to drive a car. Um, there's got to be dramatic changes. So as there's more and more that people are using to leverage technology and or to be impacted by technology, I think there'll start to be the craving for human interaction that has been taken away. And so how do you stay relevant is you create more human interactions, right? You create more value as a human. Um, we talked about, like what Richard and Tim do and their businesses. It is, just checking in with people isn't value, right? Calling your past clients to check in to see about calling your past clients to see if who they know is looking to buy or sell isn't creating any value for them. So what do we have to be doing that we are valued and providing value? Now, as an agent, if I have a client who doesn't have a trust, and I say, hey guys, I know this is like the farthest thing in your mind, you maybe haven't thought about this, but I was just thinking about you, even though it's been, a year since you bought the house. I just looked and your property's still not in a trust. And I would, it'd be horrible to think that something could happen to where, your family is going to be dealing with a mess or having to deal with probate because you didn't take the time to do this. So I want to introduce you to someone that can help you with that. And it's just, for no other reason than I care about you and here, right? That's me providing value to someone. So we have to really get really, really good at those human interactions and creating value if we want to stay relevant. And if not, it'll be too easy for people to do things without you, without a human. Um, and again, what's going to cause someone to want to deal with you? It's just like, look, I have a great attorney. I have a great, financial advisor. I've these great people on my mind. I have great doctors. I just 2 days ago had my annual with my cardiologist. Like I have found the best of the best that I could find. I could get information anywhere, right? I can get there's I could find out, I could diagnose what's wrong with me. I could see what the cures are, what the treatments are online. Like all that information is available online. Um, I could I could find out what the law is or what happens with these situations, everything else. But why do I still have a doctor? Why do I still have an attorney? Why do I still have a financial advisor? Because they have the number one, they built a relationship, right? And I trust them, right? I trust them in implicitly because of that relationship that's been built and the value they've provided to me time and time again. And I don't necessarily want to become a legal expert. I don't want to become, a medical expert, right? I got other things I'm focused on. Is the information out there? Could I use it? Yeah, but that's not what I want to be doing. But if I didn't have these relationships with them, I might default to letting ChatGPT or Perplexity or Grok, give me the answers I'm looking for and not interact with them. So, anyways, we could spend hours talking about this, but the simple answer to your question again is you got to become of a value to people, and then you got to be on their, you got to be top of mind and stay top of mind because if you aren't, someone else will be.
Love it. I hope you guys are taking good notes. I'll tell you what, and also we'll have the replay on the YouTube channel. You can listen to it on Spotify. This is good stuff. Good stuff. I've got a couple more questions. I'm always thinking this because I too, my goal is to be a listing agent. I only want to work with listings. When you get listings, you get more listing opportunities. You do get buyer opportunities that you could build the relationship and hand them to your team and cultivate them for that and be a rainmaker there. You obviously get investors every time you get a listing. Your phone's blowing up from investors, so you're building that automatically. So listings are the ones that create everything. So the question would be, when you were prospecting, and when you tell your team, this is the layout, this is how you should start your day. What does that morning routine look like? Everybody always talks about mastering your morning. What does your morning routine look like for somebody that is going to bang the phone, start prospecting, and really focus in on growing their listing business?
Yeah. So the day before everything's planned, right? I know who I'm calling, what order I'm calling them in, right? My expireds or FSBOs or out of area owners, probates, whatever. I know what order I'm going to go in. My morning routine is, I do the stuff for me in the morning, right? I just stretch and work out and do those things. I always make sure that I'm checking in on three things: my attitude, my approach, my expectation, right? Making sure I have a good attitude, making sure the approach is that I'm prepared, right? I'm prepared at the highest level for whatever I need to do. Um, and my expectations are, am I expecting that today's going to be a great day? Every day when my mom woke me up as a little kid, um, time to wake up, time to wake up. Today's gonna be a great day. Like every day, like put that in my head. Today's gonna be a great day. Now, is every day a great day? No. Do we feel like that every day? No. But I would still, to this day, when my alarm goes off, like today's gonna be a great day, right? Like the attitude, approach, expectations. Am I expecting to get an appointment, Or am I expecting that people are not going to answer their phone? Am I expecting that people are going to talk to me and want to talk to me? Or am I expecting they're going to hang up on me? Right? What are our expectations? Um, it's like going on a date, blind date, and expecting that it's going to go really bad or it's going to go really good. Whatever you expect is probably going to impact how it's going to go. So attitude, approach, expectation. And then I'm going to practice, right? I'm going to do quick role play with whatever calls I'm going to do, right? Just to get warmed up. And then I'm going to start, start dialing. And I'm going to keep dialing. I'm not going to interrupt myself. I'm not going to answer text messages. I'm not going to take calls. I'm not going to do anything that's going to get me off track. Um, you talked about time blocking. One of the keys to being successful in time blocking is to treat everything in your schedule with the same importance. And so I always looked at what's the most important thing I do? Most important thing I did was list a house, right? Was be in someone's kitchen or have them in the office and listing their home. Would I take a phone call during the middle of a listing appointment? Would I respond to a text message in the middle of a listing appointment? Would I look at social media or post or read or scroll in the middle of a listing appointment? Of course not. So why would you do that in the middle of anything else that's in your schedule? And if it's not as, so you have to treat everything in your schedule with equal importance. And if it's not, then it shouldn't be in your schedule. Um, the um, so the morning routine is that, right? Take care of myself, make sure that my head's in the right place, practice, and then call, and then don't stop, right? Don't stop till my schedule says to stop. And, I talked about this. Actually, there's a video. I came across a video. You know how the memories come up on Facebook? So there's a video that was from 3 years ago, and I posted it again yesterday because it popped up. And it was about not listening to your wants and don't wants. So just like everyone else, I'm a human. Is it like the the ultimate for me to be on the phones for 3 hours every day for 26 straight years? No, like, fishing, golfing, being at the beach, all sounded like more fun than that. Um, but, I trained myself to, while I was doing what I needed to be doing, to not listen to my wants and don't wants. So when that voice came up, and sometimes I'd say it out loud, like, "Ah, I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to make another call." As fast as I said that, it was like, I don't listen to my wants. I don't listen to my don't wants. I'm dialing another number. Just keep dialing, keep going. So anyways, that's the morning routine. Don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't, it's a simple thing to establish.
Now, I think that's important because it all starts with the morning routine. Because you mentioned a couple of things when people start prospecting and they hear the first no, then they go, oh wait, no, let me check my voicemail. Let me check something that's other than what I'm supposed to be doing. The creative avoidance starts to kick in. So having a why is going to, in my opinion, help you stay on track. If your why is not clear enough, it's going to be easy to convince yourself you shouldn't go to the gym or you shouldn't be making those calls. You need to have a why to really hone in on what keeps you going. What do you do to get your mind right? I know I mean, you just got done saying how you're getting in that zone. What do you do to really hype up? You do your practices. I mean, like Tom Brady, best quarterback out there, arguably. A lot of people may disagree, but I'll tell you what, he didn't just roll out of bed and go win a couple Super Bowls. There was a lot of practice, a lot of behind the scenes. How do you get your mind right? How do you get fired up about making those calls, knowing that a very large percentage are going to be no or grumpy or throw you off your
Yeah.
game?
So a couple things. Number one, as far as making the calls, for me, I just viewed it as a competition. It was just a game, right? And I knew they were going to try to do that as, am I going to win or are they going to win? And that was it was a game. It literally was. Like, all right. And there's a Tony Robbins quote from way back, that, and I may screw it up, but essentially what he said was, when two people come together, the one that has the greatest passion will determine the outcome. And when I heard that, it was like, like getting hit by a bolt of lightning. All right, well, if two people come together, the one with the greatest passion is going to determine the outcome. am I going to be more passionate about getting the appointment with that expired listing than they are of getting off the phone? Because if they have more passion about getting off the phone than I have about getting the listing, I'm going to lose. And I'm very competitive with myself. So it's always a game, always a competition to see. Um, but the other things that I would do is it's hard to be up for something. It's hard to have a good attitude. It's hard to have a good approach, have the right expectations. If you're taking in a bunch of negative stuff, right? And in the world today, the loudspeakers of negativity are as louder than they've ever been, right? Because we just are surrounded by stuff. Now, I don't watch the news, but I am inundated with news, and I don't even watch the news, right? You cannot avoid it, and and most of it's very negative. So, how do you limit the negativity and then replace it with positive stuff? I always operated under the assumption, and as I'm thinking about it, I don't know if it's real or not, but that there is a finite amount of space up here, right? Like, and it's gonna fill it with good stuff or bad stuff, and so, I was really conscious of who I talked to, who I spent time with, what I listened to, what I watch, what I read, and still do that. Yeah, when you asked the question, I was thinking when I became the CEO of Keller Williams. I was one of the first people in the office every day, and I would watch this video every morning. And it was a video of this high school football coach giving this speech, and it was like my favorite videos, like the ones that make you want to run through a wall after you watch it and listen to it. Called like, we're the champions. It's awesome, and it's to the music of the Last of the Mohicans, that song. Anyways, um, I, I I can't tell you how many times I'll watch that. I actually had my assistant, this is before you you could do this with AI. I had my assistant watch it, listen, and transcribe it. And then I had it written and I would read it every day. Um, but those are just some of the crazy things I do to make sure I was in the right place to do what I needed to do. But you hit on the ultimate key is you have to want something that's way more important than your feelings, right? Because if it's not, you'll just do what feels good or don't do what doesn't feel good.
What's your and I think that another part of prospecting, because real estate's a contact sport. Let's just be very clear about that. If you don't want to talk to buyers and sellers, investors, this may not be the right business for you. But I think the biggest thing is an accountability. You know what you need to do. You need to put your time block together. You need to do the phones. This is why you need to do it. Accountability partners, I'm finding, are super important. It's easy to blow yourself off and I don't feel like going to the gym today. I've got nobody there waiting for me anyway. It's no big deal. But I find when my brother goes to the gym, 7 o'clock, he's blowing up my phone. Have you left yet? Let's go. I find accountability with prospecting is even more important. So role playing and accountability. Can you expand a little on that and why that's so important?
Yeah, so look, having either having a role play partner or using a role play system. We developed a AI role play partner called SalesGo. And so that you no longer have an excuse of, oh, I couldn't find a partner or my partner didn't show up, or you know, you watch them role play and you see that they spend most of the time shooting the breeze or breaking their role play and talking about other stuff. Right? With this, you're like you are role playing hardcore. Um, but having something, either a person or a system that you plug into that does that. Accountability is, yeah, you mentioned your brother. There was a time. I've always been focused on health and fitness, but there's been times where, because of what's going on in my life, I've gotten a little farther away from it. And, and when there was, then I would just put in more accountability. Like when I wanted to make sure that I was at the gym at 5 every morning, I hired a trainer. Now, did I need a trainer? Probably not. But it made me show up every day at 5 o'clock, even on the mornings where it was the last thing I felt like doing because I knew he was there waiting for me. I couldn't like not show up. The guy got up at 4:15 to meet me at 5 o'clock. What am I gonna do? Not show up and blow him off? No, though. I guess maybe some people would, but I wouldn't do that. because I wouldn't want someone doing that to me. So, having that accountability accountability can come in a lot of forms, right? It can be in a accountability partner, it can be a structure you set up in place, a rewards program or a penalty program, that if I don't do this, I don't go do that, or if I do this, I get this, whatever it is. Um, accountability is super important.
Accountability is key. I do have one last question, and then if you have a few minutes, I'd love to open it up. I
Sure.
know there's some questions out there, but my last question that I have, first of all, thank you so much, Chris. I forgot I'm even the one interviewing. I'm sitting there taking notes, and sometimes you forget. I'm just, this is great. My question that I have: what if you could give one piece of advice to agents that want to grow, scale, and build lasting business starting today? What would that be?
Uh, it's easier for me to answer that if we just narrow the scope a little bit. Are we like newer agents or
Let's talk to the newer agent, and then we'll talk to somebody that's maybe found themselves in a rut. Let's do a two-part question. What would you say to the new agent that wants to get going in the real estate game? Because I know my daughter Brittany is on this call, so let's make that call from Brittany. What would be the one piece of advice for somebody just starting out?
Yeah, so if I was talking to Brittany, I'd say, hey, here are the things that are the differences between the people that become successful and the ones that don't. Number one, it's going to be a lot easier if you join the right type of team. Um, just because it's harder and harder to compete as an individual agent. It used to be a pretty level playing field, and when you and I started, right, everyone had like the same thing. It's not a level playing field anymore. The teams have a huge advantage, but it's got to be the right team and the right type of team and the right fit. The other thing is, and this is not, they don't like hearing this and they don't like doing this, but I'd say, Brittany, um, if you want to be successful, you got to treat it like a job. Some of the things we've already talked about, you got to treat it like a job, which means you have to have a schedule and you have to then develop the discipline to follow the schedule. Because writing out a schedule is easy, right? Takes 10 minutes. Um, but following it is maybe the hardest thing you're ever going to do. Because everything around you is going to work to get you off that schedule. And the thing that'll work to get you off it the most is, the voice in your head. Um, so joining the right team, having a schedule, and then following the schedule. Now, why is a schedule important? Because you put all the things that you need to do in your schedule, it ensures that they get done as long as you develop the discipline to do them. And that's how you become more efficient, more effective, but with your time and that. Um, and then it would be skills. Like actually, the thing I'd say before that, I would say, Brittany, now, as a new agent, if you just become persistent and consistent, you will win more times than not, right? Now, eventually you're going to add skills, you're going to add experience, you're going to add enthusiasm, you're going to add those other things, and then you'll become very, very successful. But initially, just be persistent as hell and consistent as humanly possible, and you'll win more times than not.
Look at that, Brittany. You got all the tools you need there. Well, thank you for that. Now let's talk to that agent that maybe has been in the business for a little bit, and they're struggling. They're it's not the business is just falling out of the sky kind of market, and you really need to put in some effort. You need to roll up your sleeves. What do we tell the agent that is looking for a reboot? Kind of a, okay, let's snap out of it and let's go out and help people.
Yeah, so I just there's a couple things, and there's a couple ways they could do it, not just one way. But one thing is hey, you've been an individual agent, and for all the reasons that were right for you. And if someone talked to that person about being on a team, they'd be like, no, I don't want to be on a team. I'm not going to give up my identity. I'm not going to give up this. Um, you don't have to, it depend on the team structure. None of those things need to happen, right? You can still have the benefit of the team, right? You're spending, agents today now operate, they will have to wear a lot of different hats during the day, right? They got to be an admin, they got to be a negotiator, they got to be a listing person that work with buyers and showing properties and doing all those things. And it's hard to compete with the efficiency. It'd be like two doctors' offices one where the doctor was the receptionist, was the x-rays clerk, was the nurse, was the insurance biller, was the reception. Like the doctor was doing all those things. That's what it's like being an individual agent. Now some go, well, but I like that. Cool. Then you're probably, okay with struggling or whatever your life looks like. But when you're on a team, you can specialize, right? You can have other people that do some of those things, so you can just have more time to do what you do best or what is your highest and best use. So that's one thing. The other thing is just get back to basics. Real estate is a contact sport. How many people are you talking to every day? And the answer is going to be it's not enough. And then what do you have to do to talk to more people? How are you going to meet more people? How are you going to have more conversations? We start measuring our conversations, um, and then seeing the results of those conversations. We start to create something that's predictable and duplicatable. And those are the things I would do to an agent to sort of reboot or get back is like, hey, let's just narrow the focus. Let's focus on conversations. How many conversations are you going to have today? How many people are you going to add to your database? And making sure that their database is set up right and they're doing all the marketing, all the things they should do, but just the basics of blocking and tackling. Same thing that I love sports analogies too. I love football. You know, at the beginning of every football season, what do they work on? The basics, right? Just the very, very basics.
Amen. That's sports analogies are really, they sink in. That's great. Well, thanks for that great advice. I know that we have a couple of questions. Richie, I think you had a question for Chris. Did you want to go ahead and ask that, Richie Sorensen?
No, I didn't have a question, more a statement, so I could hold off if you.
No, please go ahead. Let's go ahead. What do you got?
No, I like what Chris was saying and creating an impact. And I just wanted to share a quick success story. I know I've mentioned it on the calls before, but I can't say it enough. What we're doing is far different than any other lender. When I say we're giving our veterans, Gold Star families, a 2% credit that they can use on their loan, it's huge. And we get you, the agents, get to promote that. And just today, I had a grown man on the phone with me crying because he's been turned away. And I said, look, give me a shot, give me a week, and we'll turn you out shopping. I've looked at everything. We can get this done. And we're going in. They have a 530 FICO. We're going to do a manual underwrite. And I said, wait, let's get you fully underwritten approved. Now they're fully underwritten approved. And how we're doing is we're taking that 2% credit and we're paying off some of his debts. And he's like, why are you doing this? I said, because PRMG, your agent, and myself are giving you a 2% credit. And the best thing about the agents are you don't have to cut your commission at all. PRMG and myself are cutting our commissions down to pass this back to the veteran. So talk about making an impact. When you have a grown man that got a 60-day notice to move out of his rental, didn't even think about buying. We actually did the loan for the owner of the plumbing company he works for. And the owner of that company said, hey, talk to my guy, Richie, to talk about an impact. Here he's stressing about where am I going to go rent? I've got a 530 FICO. It's the holidays. Money's tight. I said, don't worry about it. Let me take a shot at it. So just a real great success story that I'd love an opportunity to serve more veterans this way because it's an unheard of thing that a lender is going to work for free to take care of our veterans with the hope that we do a good job here. That's going to blossom into the FHA, the non-QMs, the conventionals. So I'd be remiss if I didn't share that. I just wanted to make sure we put that out in the ether.
That's a huge win and a goosebump moment for sure. I want to thank Tim for jumping on, Richie, and of course our special guest Chris Heller. I'm telling you what, Chris, you're the way things are supposed to be done in this business, and we appreciate you. One thing I would like to ask before we say goodbye today, what's a closing remarks that you'd like to share with the group, whether you're talking to a newer agent, an experienced agent, or somebody thinking about getting into a team? What's the closing message for today's call?
I think 90% of what it takes to be successful is mindset, and especially in our business. And that's um and you can hear that a bunch of different ways, but here's the way I want you to hear it is if you work on your mindset on a daily basis, it makes this job easier. this is a hard job. I always tell people being a real estate agent is real. This is a really simple business, right? And I've been involved in really complicated business. This is a really simple business, right? You got buyers, you got sellers, you get in the middle and you help them transact, right? It's a simple business. We're not building rocket ships. We're not building autonomous vehicles. We're not doing any of that. But it's hard, right? It's sales. Sales is hard. You're dealing with people that are very emotional, and when the market's not great, if you're working with sellers, they're not going to be happy. Um, Buyers are worried. There's all these things that you have to be really good at, and it's hard to be good at a lot of things. But the it's if you can have the right mindset and work on developing a tough mindset so that when the bad things happen, and bad things will happen all the time, and if you don't like roller coasters, you're in the wrong business because real estate is a roller coaster. All right, 1 minute it's terrifying, the next one it's exhilarating. You get one phone call that the person's crying because they're so happy, like Richard just said, and the next phone call you could be getting chewed out. So you got to be able to deal with all that. And it's a lot easier to deal with it when you have a strong mindset.
Amen. You heard it here first. Well, guys, welcome. Thank you so much for jumping on, Chris, Richie, Tim. Just what a great call today. We'll go ahead and post this episode on our YouTube channel. Listen for it on Spotify. I want to thank my daughter Brittany for jumping on, my wife Carla behind the scenes running the show, and Chris. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you. And this is Robert Weichelt for another episode of the More Listings Mastermind. Have a great day, guys.